Firstly, let me express my deep appreciation of the work that is happening within this room today, the kind of energy that has been built up among civil society to tell the legal system that you're not happy with what's happening. My brief here today is to bring to your notice certain issues at the bar. I have 4 propositions to place. 1, judicial reforms cannot happen without bar reforms. 2, civil society has to be the catalytic agent to push for bar reforms. 3, the Bar Council must be aggressively forced to proactively self-regulate. 4, government must not be allowed to control the Bar Council, but it must provide appropriate infrastructural support to the legal system. Now, independence of the judiciary is one of the fundamental principles on which our society is formed. But for an independent judiciary, you necessarily have to have an independent bar. A bar that is fearless and a bar that can stand up to the government of the day. Now, judges don't just drop down from heaven. They come from the bar. Their values are from the bar. They bring their value systems, their fears, their strengths from the bar. And therefore, independence of the bar is essential. If judicial reforms are to happen, you must start with the bar reforms. But bar reforms is a daunting challenge. And the bar has lost its ability to reform itself. It therefore requires a catalytic agent to push these reforms. And before I tell you why I think you as civil society should take the leadership for initiating bar reforms, let me explain to you why I say that the bar has lost the ability to reform itself. One is the phenomenon of the rise of the pseudo-lawyer. Over a period of time, the quality of our legal education fell so abysmally low that soon law colleges became mob factories. Law degrees were up for sale in spurious law colleges. There were too many unsupervised law colleges with insufficient teachers, no libraries, no compulsory attendance, no teaching aids. For every 10 good quality, well-educated lawyers that we churned out, we churned out in large numbers brash, loud, disrespectful students who had never sat through 5 classroom lectures, who had paid for their attendance and copied through their exams. And I called them the pseudo-lawyers. But they all put on the same black robes and entered the fraternity. And they all got armed with that one very powerful weapon, that is voting right in Bar Association, Bar Council decisions. Because of the pseudo-lawyer phenomenon, the collective wisdom of the bar came down by several degrees. And worse, the pseudo-lawyer had been thrown into the system without the necessary skills. If he could not study the law and argue to win, he could fix the bench or pay to win. The ill-equipped pseudo-lawyer was placed in a position of unfair competition with the real lawyer. And how could he earn his living? How could he compete with legal acumen and courtroom skills that he had never been trained to have? He still needed clients to come to him. So he turned to touting and fixing of benches, fixing the right face value before the right bench. It became open talk at the marketplace how court orders could be obtained. Thus, the rules of the game itself began to change. Today, the pseudo-lawyer has his tentacles spread so wide and deep into the bar, into the legal system. He controls decision makings in the bar. He controls judicial appointments. You think people like me, people like Rohit Kapadia, people like Prashant Bhushan, you think people like us want to go in for all those several court boycotts that are called for flimsy reasons? In Tamil Nadu, where I come from, we have court boycotts because the Sri Lankan army is treating the Tamils badly. We have court boycotts to oppose, to protest against Justice A.P. Shah's judgment on 377. We have court boycotts every time a lawyer is arrested. You think people like us want to go for that? But let me tell you, in Madras High Court, we have mobs of these pseudo-lawyers walking down the corridor, stalling court proceedings if we decide to go against the boycott and still attend courts. They pull down your robes, they manhandle you. The other problem that we face is the loss of independence to political agenda. Now, with the collective level of integrity of the bar having fallen, entry for politicians with their divisive agenda became very easy. In several states, bar council elections are funded by political parties. Political parties have acquired stakes in several bar council posts. Two very disturbing news were reported in the newspapers last week. In Tamil Nadu, the votes for a district bar, for one particular district's bar for coming up bar council elections were auctioned off to one contestant for 19 lakhs. Now, I am shocked where that kind of cash comes from. These contestants are not people with proper legal work. Their only job is to stand for elections and get into those posts. Now, who funds them? And why the funder is interested to have that particular person in that particular post? Another report that came a couple of days back was the statement by the leader of a small but powerful caste-based political party. The party that sent the Union Health Minister, the previous Union Health Minister, Anbumani Ramdas, to the central government. Now, his statement was that out of the 7 names proposed for appointment as High Court judges now, there is nobody from our caste. And the appointment committee is appointing only their caste people. Immediately, a group of lawyers calling themselves advocates for social justice, picked up the queue from there and they've sat on a sit-in in the High Court and left uncontrolled. This will lead to a boycott probably next week or the week after. The legal system has substantially lost its independence. Appointments to judicial posts are mired in secrecy and become dependent on governmental discretion. The posts of Advocate General, Public Prosecutor, Government Advocates, these posts have become gifts to be handed out to party loyalists. Post-retirement judicial postings and commissions are carrots dangled to keep judges in check. A CJI who does not act against a minister, even on the complaint of a High Court judge, this CJI gets rewarded with the chairmanship of the National Human Rights Commission. Today, there is too deep a nexus between the political parties and the pseudo-lawyer. The third reason is the loss of our moral authority. Where was the real bar when all this was happening? Like Nero, who fiddled as Rome burnt, the leading members of the profession got trapped into thinking that success got measured with money. Lawyers have always been well off, but today who are our stalwarts? Our stalwarts are those who don't find it crude to show off on India Today the Bentleys they drive and the chartered flights that their clients hire for them. The Prashant Bhushans, the Rohit Kapadias, they are a rare breed. Today, our leading lawyers choose to be perceived as legal businessmen rather than as guardians of society.